At the risk of beating a dead horse, I'd like to document a few different reasons why I like that Police song so much, Walking on the Moon. There's a lot of different things that that song does well. For one thing, I just think it's an interesting, catchy, kind of offbeat song that's sort of an unusual deep cut that kind of lingers in your mind. It just kind of sticks in my mind. It's a little bit haunting. Um, I think one other interesting thing about it is I think it's minor and never really resolves. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, we can get to that some other time. But there's several really cool things about that song. Um, I think it uses space really, really well. If you listen to how much air is in that song, it doesn't drown you with a lot of busy notes all the time. There's a lot of room for everything to breathe, and they're also using, a lot of reverb and different echoes and things. But they let each part have some room to breathe, and I think it works well. It's also a good example of having the bass drum sync up with what the bass player's doing. And it's also a great chance to practice syncopation, especially at the end of the song, when you can use it as an opportunity to just go nuts and play with some different independence and coordination type of things. And it's also a good chance to talk along with a song, sing along with the song, vocalize along with it. And it's a good chance to practice the one drop where you emphasize the end of the beat instead of the downbeat, the way that you do in ska and reggae. So in other words, it's not it's actually Another thing I think is cool about it is something else I've mentioned, especially with regard to, say, Bossa Nova USA by Dave Brubeck, is that you get dynamic contrast without playing super loud. The loudest that Copeland ever gets in the song is, later on toward the end, before they go out on whatever that vamp is. The loudest he ever gets is. But basically, a lot of that song you're playing rim clicks. That's a great song to play with a lot of different sound sources around the drums, with muting the drum head with your hand, rim clicks, play stands, play the edge of the cymbal if you want to, bell on the hi-hat, whatever you want to do. But yeah, so for playing with syncopation, experimenting with vocalizing along with that song, and thinking about how the drum parts line up with the bass player, using the kit creatively for different sounds, and not having to play super loud to get contrast. I think that song is a masterclass for all of that. And then I think the end is great for practicing solo chops with a lot of syncopation. It might help to maybe count through it, talk through it a little bit. Ba ba ba. Ya da ba wa. So if you're doing 16th note triplets, you know, and the regular tempo of the song is 1 and something like that. If you're going to do 16th note triplets, let's back that down a little bit, but that's going to be about like bum ba na. And 16th note triplets would just be but I think it's kind of cool to break them up between the hands and the feet so that your left hand is only playing half of them. And the reason I'm going to do that is because I want to play a broken triplet jazz ride pattern against it later. But so if, you know, to fit it into the pattern of the song, the bass line that you're used to, bum 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 ba You don't always have to emphasize the snare on 2 and 4. I think it's fun to emphasize the and or one of the other offbeats, the accent right before. The other way you can do this, the reason I get used to playing 3 notes with just the hand is so that later I can play that kind of deteriorated.